Despite coming out 3 years before this video is being made, I only got to playing Undertale this November. I reset my save file 3 times because after each time I'd sit down with the game, I would forget about it for months on end, and when I would get back to it, I had no memory of the story. After the first chapter of Deltarune came out, the follow-up to Undertale, I went back and committed to actually beating the game and seeing why people wouldn't stop talking about it back in 2015. And after my first playthrough, I was pretty underwhelmed. The beginning of the run was really interesting because it gave you complete freedom over how you wanted to play the game based on which message you took to heart more. Flowey telling you to kill or be killed, or Toriel's peaceful way of living. Because I already knew that Flowey just baits you into taking damage when you meet him due to my 3 previous incomplete playthroughs, his words had little to no effect on me this time. Now that I was actually invested in beating the game though, I became more interested in Toriel as a character and her belief that you can get through to anyone through peace just as well as you would with violence. The game does a really good job of getting you attached to Toriel in the first 15 to 20 minutes that you spend with her at the start. So when you tell Toriel you want to leave her house and head back to the surface world and she fights you to stop you from leaving, naturally I chose to spare her. And as you've probably guessed by now, due to the nature of how you achieve the main 3 endings in Undertale, I went full pacifist this route, sparing every random encounter and main character I ran into. From my understanding, you can actually do whatever you want in the first run, or neutral run as a lot of people call it, because you can't unlock the true pacifist or genocide endings on your first run anyways. But even knowing that, I felt committed enough at that point to keep going with my pacifist run. So I spared or fled from random encounters, kept sparing bosses until they let me go, and solved puzzles in the hub worlds. Again, and again, and again. And it got boring. It was fun sparing Papyrus by flirting with him and seeing him get flustered in battle, ending with him deciding to spare you as if he had a choice. It was funny throwing the dummy's attacks back at him until he finally gave up and let me go. It was interesting figuring out that you can't actually spare Undyne, you need to keep escaping until she passes out due to the heat of the core. But after that, repeatedly sparing Muffet? Is it? I think it's Muffet. Repeatedly sparing Muffet until she lets you go feels the exact same as repeatedly acting with every other monster until they let you go. The Mettaton fights only got interesting when it transformed into Mettaton EX, but even then you're just spamming an action to gain ratings until Mettaton defeats itself. Every battle felt almost like a repetition of the last with some minor changes. I appreciate those changes because they made the game more fun than if it were like virtually every other RPG that just has you performing the same thing over and over again, but you still kind of are here, just with style. The interactions with characters did make the playthrough more enjoyable though. Sans got me to laugh a few times, and the dating sequence with Papyrus is actually funny, but the endgame here is to get back home and leave this place behind. Your character shows no signs of attachment to the underground, and I, as a player, didn't either, so does any of this matter? The battle with Asgore has more of an emotional impact if you're doing a pacifist run because you actually have to attack him, but in the end, you just get to spare him, like every other enemy. You beat Asgore, you spare him, you head to the surface, and everything's wrapped up in a nice little what? What is this? So, no, you don't actually get to go home when you beat Asgore, and I guess I should have expected that from a game like this, but hey, the video's all about subverting expectations, so if you thought I was gonna hate on this game the whole time, then I subverted your expectations. It's a never-ending meta loop. After beating Asgore, your game actually crashes, and when you boot it back up, Flowey reveals that he was using you to defeat Asgore so that he could get the 6 human souls that Asgore was planning on using to get to the surface and use them for himself. Flowey uses the 6 human souls to become this thing to get your soul and become the most powerful creature to exist. The fight with him completely caught me off guard, mainly because you don't even see Flowey during the game after you meet him the first time. He just becomes a god at the end of the game with no warning, and it's pretty awesome. He has flamethrowers, literal finger guns, spikes that he tries to impale you with, and nukes. He relentlessly throws attack after attack at you, and all you can do is a measly 1 point of damage until... After a certain point in the fight, the souls start to help you by healing you between phases and boosting your damage against Flowey. When you beat him, you're given a choice: kill him or let him live. And even though I had committed to a pacifist run and had spared every single person no matter how many times they tried to kill me, I ended up killing Flowey. Because really, why not? I was good, I spared every person, I didn't hurt a single soul, but what's the point? If evil beings like Flowey still exist despite my efforts to be a good person, they should be stopped, right? Well, if you decide to kill Flowey like I did, the game doesn't hesitate to rub that decision in your face and make you feel like shit about it. Flowey tells you that he knew you had it in you all along, and the game crashes. Again. When you boot it up again, you start a completely new playthrough, and to get the other two main endings, you decide between sparing everyone and fulfilling new specific criteria, or killing everyone. Now that I knew what the game was actually capable of, I had a lot more fun. The pacifist ending was the same as my neutral run, just spare everything in sight until you beat Undyne. After that, you get to go to her house and befriend her, and the whole interaction is hilarious. She takes befriending you as a challenge, and the faux fight with her is another example of how amazing this game is at turning the tables and putting you in situations that you never expected to be in. The same goes for the pacifist route's Alphys subplot. After beating Mettaton, you get a call from Undyne who asks you to deliver a love letter to Alphys. But again, what happens isn't what you expect. Instead of the letter getting the two together, Alphys misinterprets the situation and thinks you're asking her out on a date, which Undyne finds out about, and a whole situation ensues, ending with Undyne and Alphys running off together. And to give credit where credit is due, I think the neutral run is the reason these interactions are so meaningful. In the neutral run, you see all these characters in their natural state, and you get to know them before any of them actually interact with one another. Then when you play True Pacifist, things that you never expected to happen just do. Alphys and Undyne dating, burning Undyne's house while cooking and laughing it off, and the ending. Oh man, the ending. Instead of heading straight to Asgore at the end of the True Pacifist run, you take a detour and find out that there's a secret lab under Alphys' building. You learn about some messed up project Alphys was conducting that had to do with injecting the souls of monsters with human determination, which led to the creation of these terrifying creatures that you end up running into in the lab. They're just amalgamations of random monsters in the underground, but the way that you run into them, like seeing them literally appear out of thin air or your speech bubbles, the way they look, the way you interact with them, the way they act, you don't expect any of it. In fact, I never even thought I would be down in some secret area in the first place. When people say that a game has another ending, I assume it has to do with dialogue options, or whether or not you kill a certain enemy or find a secret in the hub world. But different endings actually leading to completely different extensions of the story adding to what was there before? That's new and impressive to me. When you leave the lab and get to Asgore, Toriel actually appears and stops him from fighting you. The rest of the characters you met along the way show up as well, and you all come to a mutual agreement to live happily ever after in the underground with nobody getting hurt. God damn it, Flowey. Except, it's not really Flowey. Flowey is actually Azrael Dreamer, the son of Asgore and Toriel Dreamer. Because, of course, the random evil, genocidal, maniac flower that you meet at the beginning of this entire game is the son of the king and the queen of the underground. The final fight against Azrael is, I think, one of my favorite boss fights in gaming ever. At this point, I wasn't sparing him to check off a box on a list to get the True Pacifist ending. I was doing it because, along the way, while I was doing the True Pacifist run, I got attached with the characters. So to find out that this piece of poor, tortured soul is actually the son of Asgore and Toriel and has been killed, experimented on, resurrected, and trapped in the body, can I say body of a flower, while being given the godlike ability to manipulate time, all at the age of like 12 or something, it made me want to end things the right way, not by killing him, but by saving him. Azrael questions your motives, calling you out and basically rejecting this idea that you're actually a good person, that you're doing any of this because you actually care. But him doing that, and this is gonna sound super cheesy and lame, so I'm sorry, but him doing that actually motivates you to save everyone because you're reminded of how much you like them. The struggle of getting through to Azrael is translated through gameplay, with his attacks getting easier and easier to dodge, with him, being the little child he is, throwing a final temper tantrum in an attempt to get you to stop trying to help him. But you do. You help him and he releases all the souls he's stolen, sacrificing himself in the process. Saving the souls of your friends, getting through to Azrael, saving him, and then opening the barrier to the surface so that everyone can actually live out a happy life this time is the best ending I could have asked for. What makes it even more enjoyable and gratifying is that the game never told me to do any of this. I, of my own will, chose to go through this journey. The game never told me to befriend Undyne or Papyrus, it never stopped me from attacking Azrael and killing him like I killed Flowey. But because I chose to do the right thing, I was rewarded. And after all that, I didn't even want to go back and do a genocide run to get the complete experience or whatever. The ending I got was the one I wanted to last in my memory forever, and I was completely content with what I had played. For like 2 days. Yeah, I did actually go back and complete a genocide playthrough. Really, I've got nothing to say about the genocide playthrough other than beating Sans feels so satisfying. It felt awful having to kill everyone, but him? Holy shit, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Kill him, I mean, not go through the process of fighting him. But I guess really I'm the bad guy because I willingly chose to kill everyone, which led to him fighting me? I don't know. The point is, I had a really good time with Undertale. My first playthrough wasn't the most enjoyable thing I've ever gone through, but it led to me having a really wholesome and enjoyable time with the true pacifist ending. If a mostly meh playthrough of the game was what I needed to go through to experience what I think is the most heartwarming ending to a game I've ever played, then I think it was worth it. Thanks for watching. Thankfully, the gap between this video and the last wasn't as long as it and the Animal Crossing video, and I'm going to try to keep it that way. I know I shouldn't really be apologizing for taking time off and making sure I do well in school, because that's obviously the priority, but I can't really help it because I feel like I also have an obligation to stay consistent here as well. It depends on who you ask, I guess. Also, Happy New Year's in advance to everyone watching, because I sure as hell am not getting a new video out before January. Take some time off, have fun with friends and family, and I'll be back with more stuff next year.